morning, Hesston College! Do y'all remember? None of you remember. Well, there's some movie that always, Good Morning Vietnam, that's what it was. Not quite the same, but anyways, we are so glad to see your faces, and we're glad you're here. And we have an exciting morning planned. So, announcements first, yeah? Okay, did you ever want to help plan cab activities? Apply today to be a cabbie next year. If you have any questions, ask McKenna. Right there.
Next. Come meet Lola, the therapy dog in training in the Access Lab in the Smith Center. When Lola is in the Access Lab, we will have a baby gate in the doorway to make sure she stays in and to remind anyone who has allergies or concerns about dogs that she is present. She will be in on Monday afternoons. Next.
Join Counselor Jose today for Mindful Mondays in the conference room of the Bible History Department in Krupp Center at 4 o'clock to 4:30. Earn 5 CE points. And be on time, because if not, he'll close the door, and then you're no longer welcome. I'm just kidding. If the door is closed, feel free to knock and go in. Some of us thought otherwise.
On Wednesday is a special formation at 11 o'clock, right in here. We will tell the story of Jesus' last week and connect this suffering to our own next.
Also on Wednesday, March 25th at 7 p.m. in Krupp Center 160 will be suicide awareness training. Learn the warning signs of suicide crisis and basic tools how to respond. At the end of the training, you'll be given a bandana to tie on your backpack to make others aware they can talk to you. So please bring your backpack with you. No?
No, just Wednesday. Today is March 25th.
Oh.
So
It's March 27th, sorry. Today's the 25th, apparently, according to Michael. I don't know if he's right. But this will be Wednesday. This will be Wednesday at 7, not tonight at 7. Yeah? Anybody can come if you want to be trained for that.
And you can get 10 CE points for that if you didn't remember. So in celebration of Good Friday, on this Friday, which is the 29th, okay, there will be no class. The dining hours will be open for the following: brunch at 11:30 to 12:30 and dinner from 5 to 6. It's like Saturday. Have a happy Easter. Next.
Happy Easter. Cab this Friday, all Easter egg hunt. How many of you were missing being a kid going to Easter egg hunts? You get to do it here? Yes? All right, come on. I know, Clay, I know you're missing those. Okay, Easter egg hunt, start by Herb and find a cabbie. There's a chance to win money with a golden egg. Whoa, next. Golden egg.
So you can win a Lincoln Perk card if you follow Student Life on Instagram. The winner will be announced next Monday, April 1st, and I do believe that date is correct. Now for athletic announcements.
The women's flag football team remained undefeated. On Saturday, they defeated Pratt Community College 46-13 and Fort Scott 18-13. Last week, the JV baseball team won 2 games on Wednesday, one a blowout and one walk-off. Varsity baseball team lost to East Central this weekend. Softball team lost a close game to Southeast Community College, 6-5 in 8 innings. Last week, the golf team finished 8 out of 13. Last week in an invitational, Mason White finished 4th to place individually. And the track team, the men's 400 relay, took 7th place at the Bethel Track Invitational Saturday. Athletic events this week: the golf team is at a conference meet in Manhattan, Kansas today and tomorrow. On Tuesday, baseball travels to Neo Tonkawa in Oklahoma. On Thursday, softball hosts Cloud County at 2 and 4. On Friday, baseball hosts Moberly Community College at 1 and 5. The track team is at the Bronkbuster Invitational this weekend. On Saturday, lots of things to see at home. Softball hosts Southeast Community College at 1 and 3. Baseball hosts Moberly at noon. And flag football has games at 5 and 7:30. and there is a 6 o'clock game between the other two teams.
Okay, so today we're going to actually have 4 adults, panelists who are going to come up and chat with us a little bit and talking a bit about identity. As Michelle and I and Jose often meet with students and lots of other profs and people do as well, we get a lot of these types of questions often. And so we just wanted to take some time here for you to hear from some of these adults. And also at the end, I think we might have time for extra questions. If we run out of these, my questions, there might be time for you to ask some questions also. So I encourage you to take advantage of this. This is one of the cool things about being on a smaller campus where you have adults who actually care about you and want to have relationships with you and help you. So again, put your cell phones away, pay attention, ask questions. So let's welcome the 4 panelists. You can all come up. Peter, Michael, Jen, and Ben. And they're all going to take a seat up here. I don't care which order. And hopefully, oh yeah, you guys have mics?
We have mics.
Okay. You have 2 mics to share. That's good. You can pass back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. So the first question that I think, in fairness, Michelle's gone for the week, so that's why I'm here with you. I should have said that earlier. I'm not Michelle. She came up with these questions and gave them to you. So first question is, who am I? Who am I? When I think of this question, this is often a question like that you get maybe at job interviews, right? Tell us a little bit about yourself. But we're not talking about that kind of surface level, right? Who am I? Who am I as a person? And I think ultimately, am I worthy of anyone's love? Am I worthy to be a human, maybe? Thoughts, questions? You can go in any particular order.
I have a mic. I have a mic, and I'm never shy of talking. So, for me, as I thought about who am I, probably would have said it Hesston. That would have been something I would have struggled with, like who am I? What am I about? Where do I want to be? What do I want to be about? Ironically, I was just thinking about this because I was sitting in the Lark's Nest earlier this week and people were working on their personal covenant recitals.
From Biblit?
From Biblit, which I don't know if it's the exact same as when I was here, but when I was here, it was more of like a personal version of your own Biblit. How has God worked in your life? What does that mean? And in that time, that was a really like impactful assignment for me that led me to think about like where had I come from, like what had been important to me. Michelle had shared hers, which was really, really impactful and had challenged me to be like, oh, I shouldn't probably show up and just say like, oh, I am a Christian and I go to church on Sundays and thank you very much. It was like, oh, I should think of something. So something that's been really a big part of our life. My sister was born with cerebral palsy. She was born at 1 pound, 11 ounces, really, really small, had cerebral palsy. And so like working with individuals with disabilities was something that we did a lot in our life. My parents, at the time, because I was young and didn't know, my parents required me to go to things like for her, like she did therapeutic horseback riding and some other things. And eventually those became like really important and really big passions. And eventually in looking at that recital, like that covenant recital, like it became clear that like service was really important to me. That was something my parents had really pushed in our lives, that people were really important to me. And so then it made me rethink like, okay, why do I want, like at the time I wanted to be a doctor and it was like, why do I want to be a doctor? Those things could be true, but I don't think that's why I wanted to be a doctor. Like I wanted to make a lot of money and have people call me doctor. So they weren't the most pure, intense in the way. And so, yeah, that's where I decided to change my major. I went to social work. And then nice. in the time since then, I've tried to find jobs where it's like, can I pour into people? Can I serve people? Does that fit?
Thanks. Somebody else want to answer that question? We don't have to answer not all of you have to answer every question also, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
One thing I'll add, at least in my experience, like there are some things that get a lot easier as you, like when you're out of adolescence and into the main sort of part of adulthood, which is hopefully the longest part of your life. And there's some things that get more difficult after post-adolescence too. At least for me, the who am I question is something that has gotten easier as I've gotten older. The flip side of that, and the other thing I want to add, it has gotten easier, yes. But what I wanted to add though is that it's never really answered, like it never ends. So at least in my experience, I have a quicker answer, and I think a more solid one at this point in my life than I did in college. However, it's something I answer every day, or try to answer every day, and in a way, it's something that, I think for everyone, can really change. Your answer can change if life throws you a curveball. You have to figure some of that out over again. So, yeah.
Who I am might change in your life. Is that what you're saying? Who you are? If life throws you a curveball, you might...
Well, who you think you are.
Yeah.
Maybe who you are can change too, but what I meant is if you have to answer that question, the answer might change, even if maybe your core has, maybe it hasn't. But for example, if something unexpected and really horrible happens to you, I don't wish that on anyone, but it can make you refocus on things that were important that you had forgotten, for example. Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Who am I? So, like JC, Kaylee, Eva, Larry, you guys, all of you are doing the right thing by getting away from home. You have a fresh start. No, most of you don't know people when you come here, so you have a completely fresh start. And with a fresh start, you're able to, for me, I was able to finally try and figure out who am I. I'm still trying to figure that out to this day. I'm not as fortunate as Peter. But who am I? I don't know. I don't know. But you're on the right path. You're away from home. You had that fresh start. You now have a chance to truly, do I like this, or did I like that because my parents said I like that? You're on the right steps.
You don't have to answer. Do you want to answer that one?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been working on this.
Okay.
Well, so Michelle asked last week if we would come and talk about this, and she used the words identity and purpose in helping us think about it. And so my response back to her was like, okay, cool, I have 7 days to figure out who I am and what I'm going to be when I grow up, right? I have 7 days before I have to tell you. I think it's important for me to consider not who I am, but also what I am. Like, I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I have 6 siblings. I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. I'm a wife. I'm a friend. But I think for me, what has become increasingly clear is who I am is an educator and a leader. I was a teacher and a principal in the Wichita Public Schools, and now I'm an educator here at Hesston. So that's the who that I've been the longest, right? Okay, obviously I've been a daughter and a sister my whole life, but what I have been the longest is an educator. And it's kind of crazy how my life has always been ordered to put me in the place of, I like your words, pouring into people, pouring into students. In the case of my time in Wichita, it was with young people. Now here at Hesston, it's with young adults. But it is who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. That is my purpose. A friend of mine posted this on Instagram just yesterday, and I was like, oh, I was definitely supposed to see this. Your purpose is not the thing you do. It's the thing that happens in others when you do what you do. And I think about that in the context of me as an educator and the number of human beings that I have had the opportunity to pour into, that I've had the opportunity to watch grow from middle schooler to high school graduate, or from high schooler to college graduate, from first year teacher to experienced teacher when I was a principal. So that really, really struck me as it's really not what I'm doing, but it's what happens with other people when I do what I do. And I take a great deal of pride in that. And guys, that's what gets me up when my alarm goes off every morning. Like, if I didn't have that, I don't know that I could keep doing that.
Good, thanks. A follow-up to that, would any of you say, like, all of you grew up in some sort of like Christian faith home, yeah? Would any of you say you heard or you thought you heard the message as like a teenager, young adult, like you had to find the path like that God had planned for you? Like I know for me, I grew up thinking like there was one thing, I had to find like the one right path that God had planned for me. Have any of you found the one right path yet? Is there one? No. I don't, any of you want to talk about that? That's kind of similar, but it's a bit of a curveball.
All right, before I give up the mic, I'm just going to say, I didn't have to find the path. The path found me.
Okay, yeah,
Like, I
good.
just had to open my eyes and realize all of the ways that my steps had been ordered and how opportunities had been placed in front of me.
Yeah.
And options and objectives, and how whatever I chose was always going to lead me. Well, I mean, ultimately, in some ways, it's led me to be standing on the stage today, right?
Absolutely.
So I didn't have to find it. I just had to just be still and follow the steps that were placed in front of me.
Yeah, good. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I would have echoed that. I think I would have prescribed to that, and I would have come into college feeling like I had a pretty set idea of who I was, where I was going, how I was going to get there. But I would say, similar to kind of how Peter had answered, like every once in a while, like things not necessarily have to rock you, but things just kind of come to you, or you have that opportunity to kind of hear something or feel something, and that's been pretty real for me as well. And again, like none of my jobs have actually, well, maybe this job would, but none of my other jobs per se would have fit into being a social worker. But they offered me opportunities to, again, pour into others, serve others, like have that be at the core of it. And so that's also been where like, maybe my parents were nice enough to bless me with that like courtesy to say like, you don't have to do like, okay, you've picked a major, so now you have to do like, okay, where are you gonna go be a social worker at? It was like, who will you go be yourself at and use the skills that you learned to do that job?
Let's keep going here. So this next question I find a lot of people struggling with, of like, where do I belong? How do I fit in? How do I form healthy relationships? I hear this a lot also from people like who are moving to new places. And so is it true that many of you maybe have struggled with this? Like, how do I fit in when you first come to college? Do you think you're the only one struggling with that? Or when you move to a new place? I hear that a lot, even in, sorry, all of us that live in Hesston. When people move to Hesston, they're like, oh, well, Hesston's so like closed, like I don't fit in. Like I don't fit in Hesston. And like we moved to Hesston, I think for me, I don't know, I'm curious to hear what you all say, but like I think it's also a bit of personal choice, right? Of how you choose, who do you believe yourself to be? What people are you seeking out to find relationships and make relationships with? And I think there are always people out there who want a relationship. And so it's part of like, I put that on myself more than on other people. But curious what you all have to say. Where do I belong? How do I form healthy relationships? Any thoughts on that? Yeah?
Okay, so I will say that the healthiest relationship you need to have is with yourself. And back to my story about education, I'm sure that if you were to look back on your early education, your K through 12 education, it's pretty dominated by women. Fair to say, a lot of the teachers that you encountered were women. But a lot of the leadership in education is dominated by men. And so to find myself trying to fit in as a woman and a leader was sometimes difficult. Those of you who know me well might know that I sometimes laugh too loud. Well, let's say I laugh loudly, depending on whether or not it's too loud, might be somebody else's perception. And so I would just say, as you come into your relationship with yourself, whether you're a male or a female, I want you to know that if you find yourself in a place where you are making yourself smaller in order to fit in, you need to find a different place. If you are finding yourself around people who require you to be softer or hesitate more before speaking up, then you need to find better people. That's the relationship I have finally, at 55 years old, I will pause while you gasp in amazement that I couldn't possibly be 55. At 55, I finally have decided, you know what, I'm gonna take up space. I'm gonna take up space in the world. You paid me a very beautiful compliment. You may not realize it, but one of those very, very cold winter days, I was walking across campus in my giant bright yellow coat, and Smalley yells across campus, you know what? If I were to have picked out a coat for you, OJ, that would have been the one, because you are not afraid to be who you are. And I said, if it came in hot pink, I would have bought that one. But the bright yellow coat, it's me. I'm gonna be me. You're gonna see me across campus. You might hear me laugh across campus, because I have found a place where I don't have to be small or quiet or wear quiet clothing to fit in. So that's my advice to you about fitting in or finding where you belong.
I would affirm what you said about the relationship with yourself. My angle on it is like the where I belong. I feel like I'm very lucky to have had like a family who sort of set me on the right path as far as always making me feel like I fit at least there, even if nowhere else. Or the other things, didn't matter or shouldn't have mattered as much to me because I had that foundation that I could come back to. But the healthy or the how do I form lasting relationships part is where the self comes in. I mean, that's where I'll make this connection is I don't know if this is part of my personality or part of my growing up, how hardwired this is or whatever, but like I was a missionary kid when I was younger for several years, and I don't know if this is part of the reason why things are the way they are or not, but I form relationships fairly slowly instead of really quickly picking up, deep relationships with people. So the first year of college was a little weird for that reason. I saw other people forming these tight friendships, and I had plenty of friends, but not super deep or like lasting, connections until later when that eventually developed. But anyway, I remember feeling like, oh, I'm weird for that reason. And I hadn't just come back from overseas or anything like that. I'd been adjusted or whatever. But my theory is it just made it being somewhere and then moving somewhere else, sort of kind of permanently in both places or long enough to feel like that, just made it a little more difficult to reach out in the same way other people were. But I sort of have realized that that's my style and that's okay. That's the part about getting to know myself that sort of mattered for forming relationships with other people and being okay with, and I am okay with, a smaller number of really deep friendships instead of a big number that forms really quickly. But there was a time when I thought, oh, something wrong with me because of that,
So we only have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to just say the last question, and then if any of you want to respond to this one or the last one, you can. But the last question is dealing with purpose. What is my purpose? Do I matter? How have you found that for yourself?
How have I found that for myself? So my first reaction when I saw this question was, that's the most ridiculous question I've ever seen. Do I really matter? Of course you really matter. You may not see that you matter, but others see it in you. It's how you affect other people's lives. So yes, you absolutely matter, every one of you.
And when you're in a somewhat healthy frame of mind for yourself, that seems like a ridiculous question, right? But I know personally I have been in a place where I wasn't in a good frame of mind, and I did like wonder, do I matter? And I don't know if you all have been there. I hope you haven't been quite where I've been, but I know some of you have been. So like, do I matter? It is a ridiculous question, I think, especially from a Christian perspective. God created us. God wants us.
I would say from a human perspective.
From a human perspective, we're important.
You don't have to be a Christian.
No, for sure not.
What I would add to that is that is one piece where, again, when you talk about where you're at, are you in a healthy place or not in a healthy place, that's where I also go back to where do I belong, right? And trying to find that group around you that make you feel like you belong. And I will speak like my wife and I have been in some not awesome places in our life, and we honestly only made it through those times. Not like our marriage was in trouble, like one of us was personally struggling, and we made it through because like we had a group of friends who just understood like, no, we will take some of this for you guys. Mm-hmm. We will help you through that. And so also on that flip side of like, as you commit to a group, as you commit to like these friendship groups that we even see just out here, part of what that is also committing to like, when you might think you don't matter, I will work really hard to remind you that you do. And in times that you don't, step in to help you kind of walk through that. I think that's important as well to, for us, it was something really simple as like, I had to go to work when Jen was in a really deep depression, and I had to work over a 2-day period. Like my job, I could get 40 hours in 2 days, but that meant I had to stay at work, sleep at work, do all those things. And we had 2 friends who had just gotten married, so there was no reason for them to do this. And in fact, I'm shocked that they did it because they were a newly married couple, but they were like, Jen, on Thursday nights, you come over, we'll have dinner, the spare bedroom's made up, and you can go home on Saturday afternoon. But our expectation is that you'll show up. That's when you start to realize you matter, but you gotta work really hard to find that group you belong to start to feel those things too. So those two go really, really well in hand.
Connect. Yeah, good. Anybody else want to answer or say anything about that? Otherwise, anybody have a question you want to ask? Yeah. Just shout it out and I'll repeat. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, for the students, have you made a discovery where you didn't know who you are?
Not for us, for the students.
A chance where you've discovered who you are?
You're starting to figure out who you are. How is that?
And how did you do that? Is that what your question is? How did you discover who you, right? How did you discover who you are?
I think he's saying.
Yeah. How did you discover? So like, I don't know if this connects with what you guys are for his question. Jose, like when I went to college, I graduated from high school. I went to Michigan State thinking I wanted to be a high school ag teacher, and very quickly realized like sciences were not my gift. And to be an agri-science teacher, you had to not just love animals and farming, but you had to do the science stuff. Sorry, science people. But I did find that people around me kept saying, oh, Nick, like you seem to like God. You like to help people find God, and like kept like saying, have you thought about being a pastor? Have you thought about doing, work in the church? And so like for me, it was like listening to other people talking to me really helped me kind of find my way and like trust that some of those things I had thought, but I didn't think surely God wouldn't want me to do that. But apparently it's kind of working out. Yeah.
I would also say that sometimes, you have to try a lot of things.
Yeah.
But sometimes you figure out what the right thing is because you were doing the wrong thing. On a real small scale, when I started out as an education major at Wichita State, I thought I wanted to be an elementary education teacher with the small people.
Yeah.
And so like one of my classes, we had to go do a couple of hours observation at an elementary school, and I was like, no, thank you. Small people in large numbers are terrifying to me. So then I was like, well, maybe I want to do special education. So I did, again, another couple of observations, and that wasn't right either. And so I had to do several, like, tours in education in the wrong major before I finally found where I was supposed to be, which was, I was a high school English teacher. So I think the takeaway from that would be try lots of things, try things, but then also don't be afraid to let something go if it's wrong.
Good.
I know we're running up against time, so my last piece is that one thing I would just encourage you as students to do is like ask questions, especially to the people on that side of the room. I think the four of us have proven that like we don't know all the things and we don't have all the answers, and some of us are still trying to figure out our own things. But one thing that I will say is like it doesn't really matter when you were 20 or 21 or 22. Like it doesn't really matter what technology was there. Like if you go talk to Mary, who is one of the custodians, like she will talk to you and you will soon realize like things that she worried about at 20, 21, 22 are the same things that I worried about at 20, 21, 22, are probably things that you guys are worrying about at 20, 21, 22. And that continues on throughout your whole life. Like when I become 55, I will probably worry about some similar things that OJ has worried about at 55 when it comes to our, if I live that long, if I'm blessed to still be on this earth, right, I will probably worry about my children and what they do and my grandkids and what's next for me. Like those will be realities, and that doesn't change just because like I had different technological opportunities that she did. So,
one last very quick question, just by show of hands. How many of you out here are 19 years old right now? 19? Keep your hands up. All right, 19. There's a bunch of you, 19. How many of you up here at 19 had figured out exactly, like, are you exactly where you were, where you thought you were going to be at 19? Any of you? No, me either. And is it okay? It's all okay. All right, thank you so much. Can you give them a round of applause? Thanks for coming up here. Remember this Wednesday we're having a special formation, right? Because we don't have class Friday. We're having formation for Easter, like a Good Friday service, but it's going to be on Good Wednesday. Please come at 11. It will be super awesome. So come.
I should have said this at the beginning. Lula's not here today. It is Monday, but she's not here. I'm sorry. I have
Sad. You just ruined our week.
I had an off-campus appointment today that she can't go, but she will be here tomorrow. So if you missed her like today, come tomorrow. She'll be there. I apologize.